Chris Thrash. I'm 31 years old. I was born and raised right here in Phoenix City, Alabama. If you can remember Showbiz Pizza Place, I was fortunate enough to be able to get the animatronic band that played there. It's called the Rockafire Explosion. It just blows you away. You're looking, you're like, this is really happening. It's not some dream that maybe one day. It's like, this is real. I actually just kept pushing and kept pushing. I would not let my dream go. I would not let it go.
I started a new restaurant chain called Showbiz Pizza Place, and we got singing robots in there.
And I think back to when I was a little kid sitting at that table eating pizza and thinking it in my mind that one day I'd like to have that show, but never really thinking I'd have it.
The word was given to stop making shows. We're not going to open any more restaurants. 200, that's it. We're not opening any more.
I thought that for 10 years they was gone. It was just nothing. Just gone.
It's everything that you can imagine. You weld, you solder, you drill. You have to learn something about electronics. Animatronics is like everything there is in the universe put together because you're creating an artificial life form.
Hey, everybody. I'm Kay Hanley.
I'm Greg Barron. Welcome to Rock Out.
With your doc out.
With your doc out.
A podcast where Greg and I review rock and roll documentaries.
We take our docs out and we rock them.
Yes.
Yeah, we
view. And then we review.
We review and we re-review. I'm still stuck on last week's documentary.
Oh, on Mistaken for Strangers.
Mistaken for Strangers.
I'm a little bit obsessed.
Yeah.
And also I feel like I was a bit remiss in that my boss, Chris Nee, recommended this film to us on our Rock Out with Your Doc Out Facebook page.
Right.
And I feel like it was a little bit of a snuffleupagus for her in that she's been telling people like about this documentary for a long time and no one will like listen to her about how awesome it is and then watch it. So she feels like she's just like out there in the wilderness loving this movie, screaming into the void, and no one else knows how awesome it is but her until now. And she's flipping out that we watched it. And so I just wanted to say, hey, Chris Nee, thank you.
I feel like she's right. And I feel
she's
like
right.
There isn't any explanation for me because I went and looked and saw that Tom has 7,000 fans on his Twitter account, which means to me like we could probably talk to him, which is something I really am interested in doing. I really want to reach out to him and see if there's a way to talk to him.
Right.
Because he and his brother and Matt's wife have a deal to make a TV series.
They
which
do?
I just heard on, there's a brand new Rolling Stone interview with Matt about the new national record. But I think either the band wasn't big enough at the time or people didn't, when you look at the artwork, it's really hard to tell what the movie's about at all.
Right.
And I think there were some
they had
marketing reasons.
Issue.
I think so.
Because it wasn't like the National Mistaken for Strangers.
It's so good.
It's like a
so
deep
smart.
cut lyric. Actually, I didn't even know it was a national lyric until Rick put the song up on at the end of the episode.
Right.
It's a lyric from a song. I did not know that.
I can't tell if they wanted it buried themselves, so they didn't market it in a way that said this is about the National, but it really, for as good as it is, I'm surprised I haven't heard from more of my friends that seem to like those kinds of things. Like the tastemakers in my life, I felt like should be saying, my God, you got to watch this thing whether you like the band, because to me it is on par at least with, it's not quite as dramatic because they weren't as big a band, but it is very similar to the rawness of that Metallica, the Metallica.
Well, somehow this film has not yet made it to that zeitgeisty Lemmings phase, where the tipping point has not been.
I need people to jump off a cliff for this. I think we should make it our challenge, because I also feel like people have not learned how awesome what we're doing is. I don't think people know to even look for something like this. No. So when they catch on, I'd like to be able to But yeah, we should try and talk to them. We should try and talk to him. That's going to be my goal.
I bet we can make that happen.
Yeah. I think it would be fun. I think it'd be fun to get some of these filmmakers on here. Maybe we can get the guy from the Stone Roses on because we are not pleased with that documentary.
Do you think that he'll talk to us knowing how unpleased we are?
I think, I don't know. It would be worth asking. I can't imagine he's so busy that he couldn't. If he couldn't, here's my thing.
It'll be like sort of like our Rock Out with Your Doc Out B-roll where we talk to the directors of and producers and writers of these films.
Yeah, or we may just do a couple of seasons when we say, look, we want to just talk to the filmmaker, follow up, because I'm not angry with him as a director.
Because he was a fan. He directed it like a fan.
Yes, and I also think he got cut off at a certain point. So too. And I think they didn't answer questions. And I think they found somebody. I remember I told you about how I felt like Jack White used Meg White as sort of a she couldn't leave the band. Like he got
like
to be everything he wanted to be.
Yes.
Yes, because she got to be in a band. She got to go to this, and I think she.
I guess she wasn't an indentured. She was a wealthy servant. She was a well.
Yes, and I think her own person, but she was always trying to keep up. Therefore, she couldn't, as the other band member, probably didn't have a ton of say because she was like, I just gotta.
And who else was going to hire her?
And who knew this was going to be this big, Jack?
Right, that's true.
We were dressed like peppermint sticks, and now we're in the stadium, and people are talking about my drumming, and I'm like, fuck, this isn't what I wanted, and I'm drunk a lot. Why wouldn't I be? And crying at the end of the documentary, that documentary of the two of them, the Northern Lights one, when they travel across Canada. That's a good one. And they end up in a bar.
What?
There's a White Stripes documentary about them traveling across Canada, and they do all this weird. Yeah, well,
I guess we'll get to that.
Yeah, we will, because I'll be very interested in your opinion.
Yeah,
because I love
and if we
them.
do it on the podcast, you will absolutely get that from me. My opinion.
I feel like that would make a good podcast. Turns out we're already doing that.
Right, but one of us has not seen it.
Right, that's right. So I'm not going to talk about it anymore, but I think it would be good. But the point being is I think they pick somebody who they, I think probably was a pretty good filmmaker, because I think that thing looks real good. And I think and I think the sound in it's really, I think it's well mixed, but they didn't have to answer a question. They didn't answer any questions. And
there was no footage that made them look bad or vulnerable or,
And they had an event in it where the drummer left the band at the beginning of their comeback, and they made no story out of it.
Nope.
So,
they showed a couple of still shots of various newspapers' headlines.
Right.
So we got to see them on the that they could still make the cover of the Daily Mail, but we didn't get to read anything.
I'm sure there's footage that exists that would explain it, that they're...
Oh, right? I'm sure that there was. He just didn't get... Right. So he did not have carte blanche. He did not have total access to the band. He didn't have final cut approval.
Right.
Right.
Now let me ask you something. So do you think that a band should clarify this is a tour film and not a documentary, or this is because it's hard to say. I mean, I guess they all are documentaries, I guess, right?
I don't think it's up to them to clarify what it is to us. It's just like, because really they're all bottom line fan films. And if other people love them, if they end up doing I have to imagine that the national one did like the festival circuit or something, because it's that good.
It's that good.
It stands on its own as a movie, even if you don't like the national.
Right.
It's that good.
So then I say you have another criterion for a documentary, because I think something can be interesting and entertaining, but I do think there's a level of risk, or whatever we want to call it, or vulnerability, because otherwise there's no story to tell. But it's like how much, people talk about the Dig documentary, which I think we should do. Do you know that? Right?
Yeah.
That's all warts and all, and I think that kind of is. I think that's a level of what makes
Brian Jonestown Massacre, that as a band, they're all warts anyway.
You're fucking hilarious. We should. Let me tell you something.
I mean, the music. I guess the music. I don't remember if the music's any good.
Here's what I can say, because we came here to discuss a specific documentary. I wish I watched every documentary that we're have just mentioned.
Right.
Because I don't know what to say about the one we watched this week. Now, we obviously both really enjoyed the one that we'd seen about the National.
Week.
And
Let's
it was
just talk
so
about
emotional.
that again.
I know, right? There's so much more to say. I know you and I should teach that. We should teach that documentary and the life lessons in it at a college level because there's so much going on.
Yeah.
But we took a suggestion from
someone,
and somebody had look, it was an interesting idea.
It was an interesting idea. Now we took a risk.
We're being vulnerable.
In the service of our podcasting journey.
Right.
And we watched a rockumentary. I'm saying that in air quotes. My fingers are doing like air quotes right now. And the rockumentary is called Rockafire Explosion Documentary. Like that's the title.
Rockafire Explosion Documentary. That's right. Right. That is how it is. We watched it on the YouTube, as you do.
It's on YouTube.
And that is how it comes up when you Google it. And
do you want to say what it's about?
I think
okay, I'm gonna do my best. Actually, I think it's pretty simple. What it's about is there was in the 80s a pizza chain called Showbiz Pizza, and their entertainment was like they had like all kinds of like skee ball games, and they served pizza, and you could win raffle tickets to get to turn in for like cheap, plastic toys or whatever.
Yeah, they were. It was like an indoor state fair,
like arcade
games
with pizza and
right.
an animatronic band called Rockafire Explosion entertaining.
What'd you say? Casino? An infant casino. That's really good. Is that what you call it? An infant. Well, Rick is our
infant casino.
Our producer.
Rick is our helper, our producer.
He's a producer.
Hi, everybody.
Yeah. Hi.
Yeah, it was an infant casino. That's a good idea. I've never heard that. Infant casino.
And the entertainment was an animatronic band called Rockafire Explosion, and people just went. A certain subset of humanity just apparently developed an obsession with. There are people in the documentary that talked about like getting good grades because their parents promised them that if they got straight A's they could go to Showbiz Pizza and see Rockafire Explosion and eat pizza. And eventually over the course of the film we discover that the reason that Rockafire Explosion became extinct is because the Showbiz Pizza merged with Chuck E. Cheese's, and Rockafire Explosion was killed and replaced with Chuck E. Cheese band.
Right. So there's so many things that I want to say, and I want to be kind also.
I think you can be kind.
Well, I mean,
truthful.
it was. Well, here's the thing. So I had never been inside. I've never been inside of a Chuck E. Cheese.
You haven't?
No, because I'm just old enough.
Right.
This stuff started happening, these like kid pizza places, Showbiz Pizza and that sort of thing, in the 80s. And in the 80s, because I'm ancient, that's when I was in college. And that's just the time where you don't go to children's pizza places because you don't have children and you're not a child. And you're mostly on mushrooms. So you don't go anywhere that isn't.
Actually, that would be a better reason to go.
Thinking about it, having just said that, yes. But I didn't even know that kind of thing existed.
I wish I had thought of that.
Yeah. And also I developed a taste for pizza. So like if I was going to have pizza, it just was
you want a good pizza.
There's certain things that like it's like Saved by the Bell. I was just too old for it.
Totally,
I just missed
I get it.
Right?
Yep.
So the nearest comparison I can think of is the what are they called, the Bear Jamboree at Disneyland.
Yeah. Right? I think that's what they were. Yeah,
it's an animatronic band that I believe played covers, and there were maybe some original songs. They didn't kind of go into the depth of that, but they play a lot of ads for the place. And the story, I had to go and read up on this afterwards to really understand it.
Now, are you saying that when Mighty and True were little, you didn't end up having to go to Chuck E. Cheese's for birthday parties and shit?
No.
And you did? You're
no,
so
and if we did,
because you guys were like private school, maybe that's why.
That's so messed up, and it's also
true.
And they're called.
It's like you guys were going to like fucking American Girl doll store for
that's
tea
so
parties.
Fucked up. We did go to American Girl.
Yeah,
doll store.
and I was stuck at
so
fucking
fucked
Chuck E.
up.
Cheese's.
Oh, that's so funny what you just said. Oh my God, that's so specific and funny what you just said. My True's best friend, Layla, whose dad is Brad, who was the guitar player in the Goo Goo Dolls.
Oh, right.
We took our daughters to
American Girl
Doll to get
store.
their hair done, and it didn't take with True and Mighty. They didn't.
Yeah.
They got them, and then they were weirded out by them, and they just sat there. They were an expensive. They were an expensive Christmas that never paid off. But in a weird way,
luckily
I love them for not playing with the dolls.
Yeah, well, you can't really play with those dolls. But anyway, we're not here to shit on American Girl doll store.
No, but can I tell you something?
Parties.
But you have brought up another point, which is the subculture of things like American Girl doll, which will be, I'm sure, revived at some point and seen it like that whole world of people that older men that spend a lot of time at Disneyland, bronies, they sort of like specific, I don't know, fetish is not the right word, but they sort of specific, like I couldn't relate to anybody in the movie.
No, I could not either.
Other than I thought they were dear people who loved an electronic band and wanted to see it come back.
So the creator of Rockafire Explosion was this genius, this sort of digital, like ahead of his time, computer inventor, genius guy named Aaron Fechter.
Right.
And he
invented whack-a-mole, which they don't mention in the movie.
Oh, I didn't know that.
He invented the whack-a-mole, yes. But he also somehow lost the rights to it. But he is mostly
he's a terrible businessman.
All over the internet. They're like, oh, he's the guy that created the whack-a-mole.
Wow.
So that was his
terrible
thing.
businessman. He was a door-to-door salesman of his inventions. He invented like, how did he invent the bottom of the pool cleaner, that like the vacuum that scoops up the, like, how did he not patent that? Like, how is he not the richest motherfucker on earth? For like going door to door with that in like 1978 before anyone else.
I think because he was like 15, like he was a kid. He's also surprisingly like dead handsome. Like he's this,
but also
in a very
like,
70s way.
In a very 70s way.
Like
but then
John
it turns
Davidson.
out that he's like he's real kind of gross too.
Oh, that we'll get to
weird.
that.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
We'll get to that.
Like not in a mean way, not in a like criminal kind of way, but like he's just, I don't know. He's a sociopath for sure, or maybe he's autistic. I don't know. I can't.
Sort of hard to say. He has
yeah.
So at the beginning of the movie, you see these 4 or 5 people who talk about being profoundly affected by the robot band from the pizza parlor, and how it disappeared in the 90s, and then somebody uploaded some of their footage of that band on YouTube, and it sort of sparked.
That's Chris Thrash.
Right. Chris is the guy they start with at the beginning, who is sort of a man-child.
Yeah, he's such a... Again, like, it's hard to know where these people are on the intellectual ability scale. They all seem to be operating at a bit of a deficit, and it's not like this is not a judgment in any way. I'm just like, I was just trying to wrap my head around it.
Right, because like with any kind of a film, you're trying to figure out, what is the filmmaker trying to tell me here? What are they? Are they commenting?
The filmmaker is, I wrote it down, Brett Whitcomb. I did not Google that person.
Right, so Brett.
So I don't know why he's interested in this subject.
At first, because the whole thing looks like a Tim and Eric sketch.
Yes, it does.
There's almost a point where you think...
Oh my God. Yes, it does.
Yes,
Thank you.
It's that world that they're obsessed with. It's that sort of late cable or like mid-cable VHS, late night infomercial...
with like people from fucking Creepsville.
But the subculture of suburbia, and then the sort of man children that live on the fringe of it. It's because there's no counterpoint to any of this.
There's not.
Nobody says, oh, I knew Freddie was crazy, or nobody goes, yeah, I thought it was stupid. It's just people who loved this thing. But
and also it's like, it's not like their mates are like, there's anyone who's like the straight man to like Chris Thrush. His wife seems very she seemed dim. That's not the right word.
Chris's wife.
Chris's wife, Sandy, I think.
Right.
So it's not like she could even be like, I know it's just this crazy thing. Like he goes to work at the bank and then he comes back and he blows off steam by doing this. It's like, no, they are both like, she seems like she's like less,
she has less mental facility than he does. And she is. And it's interesting because the way the filmmaker presents them, at first he seems sort of like a fan. Then they go to his place and you realize, oh, he lives a little bit on the margins and maybe that's not actually what a curtain is. And that's his home. And it does look like it's a day or two from being condemned. But also
it's like it could be in his parents' basement.
And right.
Could be.
And then they're doing some minimalist living. And then, but he like, it's not like the filmmaker also tried to help. When the woman is giving the interview, she has what appears to be a sore on her lip and she's got a bandage on her chest, which looks like it could be a port for something where she like,
right.
There was so much going on and not going on at the same time.
And we should back up and say that Chris, being the super fan who uploaded these videos to YouTube that got millions of views, that kind of like kickstarted any interest that there may have been to make this documentary. He saved up money working like many menial jobs for a couple of years to buy a set of these animatronic, it's not like an animatronic, like there are members of the band and you have to buy the set.
It's like they call the bands shows. So you would buy
you have to buy the show. Right.
And they would, at a certain point, the original investor in the pizza place was the guy who started Atari.
Oh,
and
you did some research on this.
Well, this is what I learned from there was like just a little bit because I was trying to understand it.
Right.
And he goes into business and he wants to start this pizza place that already had an animatronic band. Mm-hmm. But if they were going to franchise, they needed somebody to do a better job of it. And that's when they run into Rick. Right. And Rick is
to scale it.
Right. Exactly. And with 25 people, and they show he used to have 325 people that work for him.
And that is Aaron
Flechter.
Fector, yeah.
Fector. And he's able to produce all this stuff, and
the name of his company was Creative Engineering.
That's right. And they were the ones that made Whack-A-Mole. And then he said, I have a band already that you can buy from me and we'll put them in the places together. And that's called the Rockafire band.
Yes.
So and
he wrote all the songs too and performed a lot of them. He voiced a lot of them.
Right.
He was the inventor. He was the mechanical, electronic, computer genius that made all of this stuff work. It was his company that manufactured them, and he wrote and performed the songs and did a lot of the voices.
Right. Now,
weird.
Let me just ask Rick.
And kind of amazing.
You've not seen this, is that right? You've not seen this documentary?
I haven't seen the documentary.
Is what we're saying making sense to you? Are you understanding it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because it's such a lot to take on, I can't.
There's two main characters for all intents and purposes. There's two characters. One is Aaron, the inventor guy who owns Creative Engineering.
Right.
And the other one is Chris Thrush, who is the super fan, who is intellectually challenged.
Right.
And he bought a show and made videos of the band performing modern songs, posted them on YouTube. Right.
And then put the show up, I believe, in his garage or someplace in his home.
Where he invites neighborhood kids to come have parties and stuff like that. Now his creep factor is not based in any way on the idea that he would be taking advantage of children or anything like that. Like, he seems like a child himself.
Right.
And that's the creep factor, is that like he's a grown man who's like 8
and drinks 2 liters of Mountain Dew a day.
He drinks only he said that was so crazy. I wrote that down.
Yeah, he smokes and drinks 2 liters of Mountain Dew a
He
day.
only drinks Mountain Dew.
That's
He
all
won't
drinks.
drink water.
He doesn't drink any other liquid.
No other liquid.
Yeah. And so
I
now
think
you're
he's-
going, okay, this sounds
right.
fake, and it's like you couldn't even fake it. Like I'm like, nope, I think that's real. He appears to have only had liters and liters of Mountain Dew.
Because his teeth are gone. I think he has like false teeth.
Right.
Or maybe he doesn't.
But he also looks like he looks like a man baby.
Yeah. And I think he was only 31. Is that
yes,
possible?
that's right. And
Which
he was also
is
able.
nuts.
He was able, as it turns out to be, he was able to find the tank tops. So if a tank top is available, he's got it and he's wearing it. So
Wow.
and right. So there is that. That's my management. That can't be good.
Oh
I'm
no.
gonna just turn
When
them
your
off.
manager calls, that's not good.
I turned it right off.
Really?
No. They just call.
They just call.
They just call to say, if I'm still around.
Just want to see if this is your same number, just in case I need it
They always do that
in
really
the
sweet
future.
thing. Hey, there's a thing people are thinking about. We want to put your name on a list, and that sounds good, guys. All right, good. And you're good? Yeah, I'm super good.
Okay.
Okay. Did you call back or no? You called me. Got it. Okay, we'll see you later.
Okay. So I'm trying to figure out a way to. I think we can just breeze right past this, but it needs to be mentioned that at one point, apropos of nothing, there's one super fan that's like a talking head at the beginning that is clearly not like the other ones, and her name is Carrie, and she's like this beautiful young woman. I mean, legitimately beautiful.
Oh yeah,
And
for sure.
and again, kind of everyone is a little bit dim in this.
Yep.
And again, not a judgment, just like saying it. That's just the way it is. And she is very, very sweet. And at some point in the movie, she is sitting next to Aaron, the inventor guy, and they now are like lovers. And I was so disgusted. She the way that she became a super fan of Rockafire Explosion is she was a Chuck E. Cheese waitress.
Right. So it eventually
So when
turned
they
into
merged-
It eventually became Chuck E. Cheese.
Right.
In some weird way where Chuck E. Cheese failed and then came back together, and then there was a character called Chuck E. Cheese. Like it's this weird merging of it, but eventually
Right, but
it
she
became.
somehow, as a Chuck E. Cheese waitress, became privy to Rockafire Explosion for just long enough
Right.
to make the acquaintance of all of these other weirdos, and then eventually become the inventor of Rockafire Explosion's lover.
Because she had made a video mourning the loss of the Rockafire band, and he
Right.
saw the video, and then they talked on the phone. They had an uncomfortable conversation that neither of them can agree on what happened.
Yeah.
She looks like Wet Hot American Summer. She looks like
yeah, sure.
she's straight Cheryl Tiegs. She's just a very beautiful, thin, perfectly 80s looking girl. And he talks about her being, he goes, I didn't know we were that much to talk about, and I thought maybe she was too young for me. Well, she is. So much younger, and now they're married, right?
I don't know if they're married.
I think they were married.
Maybe eventually. In the movie,
Uh-huh.
they or
Or trapped. She might have been trapped. She may have been
She
in one
may
of the
be
boxes
just
where
his
all the
hostage
robots. Right.
in that weird.
In that super enormous factory where it just the deeper
Where-
they go into it, it turns into Grey Gardens.
There was a Grey Gardens element to this for sure.
Yeah.
Because a lot of that, as he's taking the view, the documentary crew around the old warehouse where, the ghosts of these 320 employees live.
And the thousands of robots or whatever that they made.
I know, the weird old robots that are have been completely the faces have been deflated by heat. I mean, it looks like it's a horror movie for sure.
And he starts to, so at the beginning, he seems pretty reasonable, very smart.
seems
You're kind of
normal,
pulling
yeah.
for him. And then
Ish.
you realize he struggled a little bit, and he's obviously got some genius, but also for me to really get into it, I would need to really think that the band was a worthwhile experience, which I I haven't. I could go in and I've seen an animatronic band once and never went back.
Yeah.
I didn't. There are those things in life that some people have, like going to Disneyland always, or and I get it. That's a thing people like. Maybe the way I'm obsessed with the National now. But
I think it's different.
Maybe I don't know. But I in my head I'm like,
maybe it's a taste level thing. But I'd say that there's a distinction between loving the National and loving animatronic bands. Animatronic animal bands.
That's like the quote of the season. That was,
you think?
That's so true. But there is that. Look, I don't think, I'm not a collector, and I've never had those kind of, like, I didn't love magic. I didn't love, there are areas in life that certain men and, the areas that people go to like that. And do you have any, like we have a friend, she's a dentist and she's got kids and she's a normal life and a normal marriage, and she's obsessed with the Smurfs in a way that's like,
do I know that person?
What? No, I don't think so.
No.
She's just a friend we know from school, but she's lovely and we all love her. But her obsession with the Smurfs is that thing of like, it's meaningful to her. And and
most people I know have like obsessions that are based in some kind of cultural norms, like, people who are obsessed with Star Wars and Star Trek and,
Right.
And I have a tendency to like really get into the weird stuff that, like, my son and I are really into Tim and Eric.
Right. Okay.
Really into Tim and Eric.
Right.
But these are based in kind of like modern things that other people share in. It's not like, I put it this way, I don't have to get on the internet.
Right.
And to find, the closest person who likes what I like is like halfway across the country.
Right. Well, it's that thing of, I feel like I'm being reductive, and that's not what I mean to be. What I'm saying is I have a hard time connecting into the that kind of fandom, that kind of like where I love an animatronic band, where I love a German a blue German toy figurine. They were figurines, I think, originally.
Right. Yeah.
Like that kind of love where it feels almost irrational. Sure. I don't know that it's irrational, but it seems like.
Well, we didn't have any evidence that normal, and I hesitate to say normal. Again, like, I feel like I don't want to be really judgy about it, but just like no one, I think you said it best. Like, there wasn't anyone who was very relatable. Somebody told me that
the Brony documentary makes a lot of sense of it. That they're like, if you watch the Brony documentary,
what is the Brony documentary?
You know what the Bronies are, right?
I don't know. Do I?
Bronies are men that love My Little Pony. And
I am not hip to this scene at all.
Oh, I've been shouting Brony at you without even asking. It's been around for a bit, but years ago,
men who are into My Little Pony.
That's right. And one of our friends, a friend from school, a woman named Tara Strong. You may have run into Tara, but she is the voice of Sparkle Pony or Sparkle.
Okay.
I don't know the names of them well enough, but so I've talked to her about this, but it's a thing. There's conventions, there's guys that dress up like it's, and there's also people that just like it. They don't have to dress up, but they like the show, but they love it in a way that's not dissimilar to this, but it's bigger because the My Little Pony is a bigger phenomenon, but it is a very real thing where people get together and there are chat groups and conventions and it goes to the cosplay thing, and I don't know if it's fetishy or not. I don't mean that again to be a reductive term, but there are those things. So I'm watching this particular documentary and going, what are you telling me about these people? Because I've never even heard of this. So explain to me what. It won't explain itself at all. It sort of throws these people. It throws this situation at you, and then there's like, you figure it out.
Yeah,
and I'm not going to give you any reason not to judge them. And
I did not figure it out.
I didn't either.
Yeah. So I don't know. I don't feel like I was improved or I don't feel anything about this.
In the long or the short
movie.
of it, a guy who at the beginning you kind of go, oh, this guy's pretty interesting. I guess this pizza band is, I could see how it could be an interesting, weird, quirky thing to love, not unlike the ideas in Tim and Eric, that sort of very specific, oh, this was a period of time, or this was the most modern thing, was to have a band of robots that played instruments, and
Right.
kids loved it, and there were kids that grew up with it and somehow were attracted to those machine animals that played music, and and it reminded them of their youth. And so going back and seeing that, just like things from my past, triggers something. But then we come to find that this guy who built this empire, and then this happens after the documentary, the building that he owns explodes.
What?
In Florida, it blows up.
You're kidding.
No, because there's a type of worm that gets inside canisters of nitrous or whatever they had in there, and it blew the entire place up.
What?
Yeah, it was a big deal. It was
Wow.
it was like in 2000.
In Orlando, because they're outside of Orlando,
Yeah,
right?
in Orlando. But when you watch the documentary, you're like, okay, so he goes, here's where we made the masks, and you're like, okay, and here's where some of the clothes are, and you're like, yeah, and he goes, and I have this in case somebody wants something. What? Like to wear anyway, and then he goes, and this is where, well, that's melted, and we don't want to touch that. I don't know what that is. It's brown. What? And then we just keep going further back, and he's like, and you're like, what the fuck? This is like the bad end of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. It's like, oh, maybe some of this candy's made of people.
It was
Right?
really upsetting. It was really sad.
Right.
It was really sad. And then that's I think where the Grey Gardens bit of it really came into play, because
Right.
it was just like, oh, this place is just a museum but like an old sad museum where nothing can be touched, nothing can be moved, no one will ever come visit. None of these people are ever coming back.
Right.
None of this industry is ever going to come back to life. And it's just like the saddest, most depressing. And the shit hadn't been touched for 20 years, he said. He was like, like people like there's a desk with all the art supplies on it where a man painting masks used to sit, and one day he was fired and he left, and none of that stuff was ever touched again, but it's still just sitting there.
Okay, first off, two things. You just described America. That's A. B,
I meant to do that.
That's exactly what people do when they have a child who's died, whose room they can't go into.
Oh.
When he said that, maybe these pliers have never been picked up in 20 years. It's like people left him, and he was bereft. He was so bereft he couldn't go back to where they were.
Right.
And he had created such an enormous place, which is a constant reminder of
See,
some
Greg, you
point-
learned something.
No, we're getting it out of this conversation. I would have
Okay.
never had it. But here's the part again. Okay, you have all this information. How did you not watch all your footage and go, we might have a movie here, and then find a way? Right, it's art. So do you just look at it and then you think about it and we discuss it? Yes, but in some ways I feel like there are things that I would have liked a point of view on this. I would have liked a counter side. I would like to know more about, why are you here? What are you doing to these people? What is this? What's the point you're trying to make? Because at one point I think, oh, it's a celebration of people who like this thing and we're all going to see them get together. Nope, that's not what it's about.
Right. I was kind of hoping, like, because at the beginning of the movie, it was like so obvious to me, like, oh, well, the band's going to get back together and it's going to be this. Before I knew that this movie was just going to be inhabited strictly by crazy people, I was like, oh, well, the band's going to get back together at the end. And 3/4 of the way through, I was like, please, God, don't let them show the band the Rockafire
Right.
explosion playing a song at the end. Like, please, I don't want to see it. This is just too weird and gross. I don't want to see it. And of course, at the end, the band does play. Thank God. It was it was pretty on the nose that it was a super furry animal song, but like at least it was a really good song.
Right. Okay.
It was a really good song.
I didn't realize I didn't realize.
But yeah.
Oh yeah, that's a really good song, and it's presented so okay.
And
so,
I just like shut my eyes. I just didn't even. I just listened to the song and just or watch the band with just like one hand over one of my eyes. So I only sort of had to look at it. Here's what
I'm coming to now. I think part of it is I generally watch the movie pretty close to the recording of our podcast because I want to remember it. But what I'm realizing now almost is I probably should watch it and then watch it again, because the movie you're describing
Yeah.
is really spooky and kind of great, because it starts off as this like, oh, here
Maybe
we
it was awesome, and I'm just not.
Here we take a trip down a nostalgia I didn't know, but maybe somebody liked this. And then you're like, this guy's fucked up. His shit done blown up. He ain't talking to nobody. And the other guy's got a bunch of robots at his house. And they're both married to women that seem trapped or not bright enough to get away from them,
Right.
like pets.
Who are dumber than them.
Right. Or
Right.
way smarter in some way. Like, I'm like, he was worth a lot of
no.
money, and he's not worth a lot of money now. Is she still around?
I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't think he was worth a lot of money when that happened. I think he was
yeah,
like
maybe
such
not.
a bad businessman that he lost everything he ever had. Everything he never made he never like protected himself by like taking any ownership, or he never patented anything. It seems like he never.
Yeah.
So everything was fleeting.
Right.
And nothing ever paid him on the back end.
Right. And they said at that one point, they're like, the reason they had to get rid of the band was originally the reason that they had to get rid of the band in the restaurants was because it was too expensive, and they weren't making their money from them because they were expensive to make. I mean, they were well done for what, I mean, here's what I will say. As far as animatronic rock bands go, they seem to be top notch.
Oh yeah.
You know, the guitar, the way the
Best in the business.
swung over the guitars, the way the drums would sort of match the drumming, like the
way
precision.
those eyes would dart around like creepy fucking murderers in the night.
Right.
Yeah.
there was, I mean, it's all creepy just to start with.
Yeah.
Anyway, that shit used to scare the fuck out of me as a kid, so I had no
Oh
interest
yeah.
in it later on.
It's the stuff of nightmare. I mean, it's like, it literally is it's a horror show. Is your manager calling again?
God, could you imagine that?
Wouldn't that be great?
I keep saying,
They're like,
no,
I
things keep
just
getting
wanted
better.
to make sure that was still your phone number.
Yeah. It's been so long since we've talked. There's nothing he could be calling me about that would matter.
Really?
There's nothing he could say to me that
It's
would
like,
be true.
hey, I hear you're doing a podcast. And you'll be like, mm-hmm.
But if he called, okay, you'll be on Fallon tonight. I was like, it just seems like work. Who will know? Who will know? If Kay and I were going to be guests on Joe Rogan's podcast, that would help. That's
really?
the biggest thing in it.
That's what wait, do you guys share a manager?
No, but there are certain things that are like, there are certain things in life now where the numbers are so big that like it's surprising. Like, I've had friends that have gone on Joe Rogan's podcast and have done Conan the night before, and the Rogan's podcast is the biggest thing that'll happen to him all year.
Really?
Yeah, because he's got a big, gigantic, concentrated.
I thought you were going to say he has a big, gigantic cock.
He's a big cock, and people love that. Apparently, it's nothing to do with podcasting.
I don't know why people would say that.
Yeah, he's an enormous. He takes his dick out, and everyone's like, I can't believe it. Yeah, but maybe this thing was meant to be. No,
I think our first impression was right. I think that like all of these things that we're saying are true, but it doesn't make it entertaining, and it doesn't make it just like it was all. It didn't, last week you said two sides of a coin.
Mm-hmm.
This movie is just one side of a coin. And
Right.
that kind of like, if there was anything brought into it to like the straight man or the voice of reason or somebody who wasn't a fucking weirdo ding dong,
Right.
like maybe there definitely would have been something here, like some kind of context, contrast, something. But this thing was just dark without any.
Right,
without much in the way of a redeeming quality.
It just didn't have a point of view. It just didn't know it. It just didn't have, or if it did, I don't know what it was, because it just.
It's just like, we're just gonna film these weirdos, and I think that like there was something like you could have like made Chris and his wife, who actually at the end they opened. Chris and his wife got married at the roller skating rink,
right, where he was a
DJ. That was one of his menial jobs that he did to earn money to buy the show. And then they opened, I have this written down someplace. They opened a restaurant called, damn, where is it? It was something, it was like Showbiz Pizza Productions or something like that. Showbiz Pizza Zone.
The Showbiz Pizza Zone.
The Showbiz Pizza Zone. It's the zone that features all of the stuff that used to be at Showbiz Pizza. And also, I'm sure that's the name they could get.
Look, maybe that's not, maybe that's interesting. Maybe
I would like to see the document, maybe.
There's a part
I wouldn't
of me
want to
now,
see that documentary.
if I was in whatever city that was, I might go take a look at it because of the.
I'm sure it's in Florida I think he lived in Alabama.
He lived somewhere south.
But
yeah, so it really didn't. I wanted to call you during the middle of it and go, I don't know what I'm watching and I don't know what to say about it, but we filled up some time. We did. And I think, look, it's on YouTube for free. So it's not you're not taking a big risk to go watch it.
No.
But there was one comment at the top and it said, man, if I knew this was going to be so sad, I wouldn't have watched it. Or it said, I didn't expect this to be so sad. Like, I think people watched it and went, oh, the thing from my past. And then they went, oh, this is dark.
Or like, it's such a goofy subject that you would think that they would have had. That's the thing. Like, you think that's it. You think they would have had some fun with it, and they didn't. It's not fun. This is not a fun thing to watch.
Well done, Kay. They did not have any fun with it. They didn't.
No.
They didn't. Even in the tragedy of the last one, the hardship of being brothers and alcoholism.
That was
all
fun.
They made it fun. And also, without ever really delving into the band, if you didn't like them, you were like, I like that band.
So basically, we're going to have to change our scale from Tufnells to Berningers.
Yeah.
That'll be our scale.
Yeah.
But for now, until we figure out what thing from the National we're going to use as our new rating scale.
Yeah.
We're still on Tufnells.
I will say there's something I didn't mention about the documentary last time, the Nationals. He is in the movie. Mm-hmm. Tom is wearing the skeleton T-shirt that Nigel Tufnell wears in
that's funny.
Spinal Tap, where he says, "This is my insides. This is a picture of my insides."
That's amazing.
He's wearing the same T-shirt.
That's
at
funny.
one point.
I didn't catch that.
Yeah.
You caught that the seventh time you watched the Nationals.
This was the time I wasn't completely naked, but people are gonna be like, now I hate that documentary. Now I hate that documentary and you.
Okay, so what is this fucking thing called?
The Rockafire.
The Rockafire explosion documentary.
First off, thank you for the suggestion. And look,
we'll watch anything
that you suggest. And look, write us and tell us why. See, this is the thing I like. That's why I'm almost. It would be fun to do this with a bunch of people and go, explain it to me. This is your thing that you liked. You explained to me why you liked it. I watched it. You asked me to, and I'm interested to know because maybe I'm seeing something I didn't. Because at least by talking about it with you, it sounds slightly entertaining. We did sort of map out a journey.
We had a decent conversation about. I enjoyed our conversation about this.
It's much better than the actual.
Yeah.
And there's also stuff about them online. There's stories all about the rise and fall of the pizza place, and and I think there's a good story to be had about how fucking nuts that dude is, or. Maybe he's not nuts, and they painted him poorly in this, but I think he was nuts.
No, he's nuts.
Yeah.
Yeah. Totally nuts. One Tufnell. Yeah. Tops.
Yeah, and I gotta say, if we add risk factor, I would say no risk because they didn't get on the side of this.
No, they didn't.
All right.
Hey, Greg, we need to talk about the fact that we're going to be at Podfest.
That's right.
Podfest.
That's exciting, right?
I think that's really exciting. I think it's good. I have to get my hair done or whatever. When I come here, I can just be in my pajamas, but I'm going to have to get a blowout for the nice people.
I'm going to go in pajamas.
Really? Yeah. Because you dress up to come here.
I dress up to come here. That's right. I do. And I also dress up here. This is where I dress up. It's my house.
That's true.
We're in my
your
bedroom.
Room.
That's right. This is where I dress up. Rick, if I make you uncomfortable.
Not yet.
Oh, good.
Not yet.
Well, there's still time.
Rick is the guy who does all of our like the music drops and stuff like that. I'm not sure what the technical term is for what
He
you
sound
do.
engineers it. He helps
But
produce
you make
it.
us
Yeah.
you make it sound pro.
Thank
so
you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. And he cuts out the stuff you guys don't need to listen to.
Is that true? Have you ever done that?
A couple times.
He'll do an edit. He'll do an edit here and here. I said to him
That's how
one day-
these are not all 3 hours long.
Yes. I've said to him, look, you know what sounds good, and Kay and I are never going to go back. Why didn't you mention the part when because I don't even remember. We're already on to the next documentary. So
Totally.
But you can write us and tell us what you think and what you like and what you
Our
want.
address is
rockoutwithyourdocket@gmail.
yeah.
And at Kay Hanley at is it Gregory Barrett? It's Gregory Barrett.
At Gregory Barrett.
On Twitter. And
And,
follow me on Twitter because I have things. I never say anything. I just post when the podcasts come out.
And then we also have and also like rate and review our podcast on iTunes.
Yeah, you guys have done a great job of that already. So
So thanks.
So those of you that
thank you
haven't-
to
yeah.
the 20 people who are listening to us. We really appreciate it.
It's higher than that.
Is it?
Yeah,
How do you know?
because I see the Matrix on my
What is that? What is that? What are you talking about?
Well, I see the the
like, is that the analytics or something?
analytics. Yeah, that's what I meant. Did I say
Oh.
Matrix?
Yeah.
I'm also in the Matrix. I forget when I'm in the Matrix when I see the analytics. But
Right.
I'm also just an illusion.
So you see the analytics.
I see the analytics.
And so tell me later how many people have listened to our podcast.
Yeah, I'll show you. But it keeps going up.
Sweet.
Yeah, it keeps going up and not down.
And I think Angie C listened to our podcast on the National, and we're going to talk to her about being more professional as well.
Right.
So we don't just keep yakking.
Right. Yeah, she'll have some opinions.
Yeah, maybe.
And also, if you guys have thoughts or things that you like or things you'd like to hear or anything, tell us because this is your podcast too.
Yeah.
Not really though.
Hey, what is the date of our Podfest?
It is October the 6th, Friday, October the 6th.
Friday, October 6th, and it's at 9 or something, right?
It is. It's at 9:00. Yeah, I'm doing Walking the Room at some point, and then.
Is it the same night that
Same night.
Walking the Room?
Yeah.
So I'll finally meet Dave Anthony.
Yeah.
Am I going to like him?
It's hard to say. I don't. No. Yes, you will. Of course you will.
Okay, great.
He's awesome. He is awesome. And we will let you know what, I think we're going to maybe have some guests. I think what we're going to do is have a sort of more of a round table.
We're figuring it out.
Yeah. And maybe we'll even take some requests from the audience or have people talk about documentaries because people do have a lot of opinions about this. What's that?
Do we know what the venue is?
I have it written down somewhere. Yeah.
Maybe we'll write it down on Twitter.
We'll write it down on Twitter.
Look, keep an eye out on Twitter. Greg and I are both active tweeters.
Mm-hmm.
So,
LAPodfest.com though.
Yeah,
you
that'll
can find
tell
all
you.
the information there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Amazing.
People buy passes and go for the whole weekend. It's a thing.
It's a thing.
deal.
People care about it.
Yeah.
Great.
And then if you're in San Jose, on the San Jose, you guys are playing
Sunday, the 8th.
Yeah.
Letters to Cleo will be playing. I guess it's like after like a half marathon or something like that. Like we're playing kind of in the morning.
I like it's after a half marathon.
I can see after it's like
after
a road
full
race.
marathon, no music. But after a
No.
half marathon, after 13 miles, I'd like to see some Letters to Cleo. That'd be
That's
perfect.
true.
That'd be exactly.
I know
I'll
you're
run
joking,
that.
Greg, but it's fucking true. No one wants to hear any music after a marathon.
America's half marathon band. People don't even know that.
But you know what? In 1988, we played like a million like rib fests.
Yeah.
And like, pig races and shit. So this is a step up.
You guys are fucking great.
30 years later.
Yeah. You guys played the Troubadour it was like Christmas time, wasn't it?
Something like
It
that.
was awesome. And also,
nice.
and then the 26th here in Los Angeles at the Ace.
Oh my God, Josie and the Pussycats, screening, Q&A.
Yep.
We're playing the songs from the soundtrack. You can buy Josie and the Pussycats for the first time ever on vinyl.
All the Barretts are going to be there.
Oh my God, I'm so excited.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's that. Right?
All right.
That's good. That's our business.
That's it. We're done.
We're done. And next week, a documentary that we'll be able to talk about, I think.
Yeah. Not that a bad documentary has ever stopped us from having a lively discussion before.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
That's very true.
But yeah, until next week, rock out with your doc out.
Rock out with your doc out.
Later, guys.
Oh, he's as free as the breeze, he's always the tease. He lives in the jungle and he hangs by his knees as he swings from the trees without a trapeze in his PVDs.
He's got a union card and he's practicing hard. Can play the guitar, gonna be a big star. Yeah, he's gonna go far, and Terry Moonbeam's home in a jar. You know the Chet's guitar, chord C, O, B, makes A and E, and he's working on B, Dick, C, and W, and R, and B, and me, and the chimpanzee agree that one day soon he'll be a celebrity. Get it, get it, get it. Ow!
Guitar man and his jungle band. He's all you can stand. Give him a hand. Guitars and do it, son.
He's got a girl named Jane
With no last name.
kinda homely and plain,
But he loves her just the same.
cause she kindles his flame
But it drives him insane.
when he hears her sing.
She really does her thing.
It's her claim to fame.
Come on, sing.
Yeah, come on and sing it, Jane.
Baby. Baby. Oh, baby. Skidoo-ba-doo-ba, baby. Skidoo-ba-doo-ba, baby. Oh, baby.
Come on, folks, let's hear it for Jane.
Well, we got a pet monkey and he likes to get drunky. He'll sing funky wookie and it sounds real funky. Come on, it's your time, boy. Sing it for us right now. Okay, let's hear it for the big old fat monkey.
We'll break your neck, Rolf.
On Saturday night,
They need some excitement. Jane gets right and the monkey gets tight.
And their voices unite.
in the pale moonlight,
And it sounds alright. It's dynamite.
It's out of sight.
let's hear it right.